Hi there guys, and as you can see we're looking at my lovely pedal board. Now this is constructed actually by one of my more electronically minded students, shall we say, who has always been fascinated by pedals, and I showed him the pedals that I have and he basically built me the board from kind of a couple of parts. So I'm gonna pretty much walk through it with you just to explain what the ins and outs are here. Is basic in is on this side, so that's my guitar, as you can see, the Strat going into the wah-wah pedal. That runs through then to the tuner, okay. Then it also hits the compressor, so it's not just a straight thing here. That compressor out into the BB+. These are two overdrive pedals. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pedals then going out into the amp. And then what I've got up here are what you would refer to as pedals that wouldn't necessarily need to be directly in the loop. They could do, but actually if you've got an amp like me, my Fender Blues Deluxe, where it's got a preamp in and out, I actually put this through the preamp directly. So these are kind of, if you imagine, without getting too technical, because I don't fully understand the technicalities either, as you can probably hear, but essentially it means that the sound of the delay and the reverb is not so much affected by the distortions and the wah-wah and everything else that's before it, and therefore it will be a cleaner sounding. Okay, you know it's a big difference because I can also plug in straight from the overdrive here into these two, so they're in the loop, but you notice it when you kind of hit it a little harder with maybe the OCD on here into the actual delay. The delays are actually slightly more gritty, and if that's the sound you want, then it's perfect. But for me, I want a nice clean kind of sound out of these two, which then this is separate to. So let's just go through it. So I've got a Jim Dunlop standard, the most box standard wah-wah pedal. I get through a lot of these because you have to bash them to turn them on. Excuse my socks for a second. But it kind of, you turn it on and you get these kind of classic tones. So, every man or woman who plays the guitar needs a wah-wah pedal. Fact. Okay, first pedal I ever bought, I guarantee you, and can't say that's exactly the same one, but I have had the same one. I just keep replacing it. As you have to learn to not go crack to turn it on. You've got to just give it a little push and then you're on. And then I'm off again. Okay, let's just go through the rest. So you can potentially see there that the Love Squeeze pedal, which is a compressor pedal, is always on. Now, essentially what a compressor does is it actually basically takes your overall sound and puts it on even ground. So if you imagine I'm playing a guitar part where I'm doing lots of big hits like this, and at the same time doing lots of this, and for the guy standing out the front of the stage, he wants to kind of hear all of that at roughly the same kind of place, without one of them being too overly loud or too overly quiet. That's pretty much what the compressor does, or varying degrees of that, depending on how much compression I put on, and obviously then there's the volume of the compressor. So if I turn that compressor right to the top, what I'm going to get is, as I hit this really hard, it pulls it back in, and if I hit it softly, now I'm hitting that as soft as I can, it pulls it out. So that's louder, even though I'm playing quieter, and that's kind of pulled back, even though I'm playing harder. So, depending on what kind of music you play, you need as much or as little of that as you need. So probably metal, you probably need a little bit more, and in my terms a little bit less, because I'm playing stuff that's got a bit more dynamic in it. The tuner, the chromatic tuner, boss. I mean, these pedals are, in my opinion, absolutely rock solid. It's a great tuner. It's nice and visual. We'll see how tuned my E is, and you can see there, nice big green in the middle of it. Does the job. Simple as that. Okay, now moving on to the exciting stuff. We've got the BB Plus pedal. Now I love this thing. We've got 2 channels of gain, and I use one for a slightly lesser gain and one for a lot more. So I would use channel A. Here's my clean sound. Channel A. Now I'm sure you can't hear it properly through the camera speakers, but it's, you know, you can hear it's got a little bit more warmth to it. But not too much, you know, it's this kind of a nice, subtle gain. Again, you've got an option for a compressor on top of that. You've got tone, you've got volume, you've got how much gain. Brilliant. For the second channel, it goes a bit heavier. And that's about as heavy as I kind of get my sound, really. I don't need it any heavier, really, for the kind of music that I play, which is predominantly kind of blues, funk, disco, all these kind of sounds. These are the kind of bands and projects I'm in at the moment. I don't need anything more than that. And to be honest, playing it through a Fender Blues amp of some kind doesn't encourage any more than that either, because you start to kind of change the sound of the amp too much, and you always want your pedals to be working with the amp, not just kind of buying a pedal separate to the amp. So I always go through a rigorous routine of playing it over and over again with the amp that I'm using, so that I know it kind of works with the amp. Because not all pedals, you know, you might pick up a BB Plus and find you don't like it because it doesn't work with your Marshall whatever, or you know, your, you know, whatever particular amp you've got. That might not work with it. It just happens to work well in my setup with my amp. The OCD is just a very kind of, I'm using it as a very subtle boost to my kind of clean. So here's my clean sound. I put this on. And you can hear it's just adding a little bit more grit. It kind of makes the amp break up a little bit earlier than it would normally, hence adding a tiny bit of gain, but not a huge amount. Now at that point, let's have a little look at, these are 2, I would say, must-have modulation effects would be delay and reverb. So we start with the delay. This is called the TC Electronics Nova delay. I love this thing because you get presets, so I can program in crazy sounds. So for the moment, I'm just going to kind of turn this on and put the mix level up, feedback, all these kind of loads of buttons you can go through. And then you'll hear if I go, great sound, isn't it? It's just, you know, that's a really simple delay, but that's timing wise, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So I just play the one note and it plays the rest for me in 4s like that. But you can change it to 8s, dotted notes, all of these kind of crazy symbols that you probably will have no idea what they are, but try them. So I'm going to change this to this. So now I get this dun 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 dun. And you know, it's honestly, it's hours of fun. I could sit here all day. It would be a very long video. But you know, simple things like, for example, mix level. So I could turn my input guitar. So when I actually physically play the strings, nothing happens. You only hear the delay. So I'm playing the strings now. It comes out afterwards. Let's try it on this one. So that's cool. That's, you know, that's got its uses. Feedback basically means that if I play this one note, turn the feedback right up, it's going to keep coming, and it's going to keep coming, and keep coming, until it gets scary, and then I turn it off. So that's a quick overview of that, and then I've got that going into a very cool TC Electronics reverb pedal, which gives you some nice if I was playing maybe some Peter Green. But that's quite an extreme one, and you can go from extreme to kind of just subtle spring reverbs, the kind of reverbs you would expect in kind of classic amps, and so on and so forth. I do believe that a good reverb and a good delay will kind of, half your battle is done with regards to modulation effects, and there you have it. With regards to the actual board, you can see it's all nicely wired, and underneath, if I just turn the amp off for a second, you can see that actually underneath the board, you've got a really nice, let me just unplug that, setup. It looks great, you know, really nice and neat. We've got this kind of Voodoo Labs power supply, which is great. You've got all these outputs. You can select 12 volts or 9 volts. And the guy that did it, John Brownwood, he did it for me for a really nice mates rate as I teach him how to play guitar. He puts together my pedal board. So anyway, there we have it, the pedal board of dreams, and I hope you like it.